Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the channel. My name is Neil and I have no idea what I'm doing, but I do know what I want to do with the channel. Well, kind of. Um, okay, so it's been a while since I posted a video. In all honesty, I'd reached a point where I didn't see the point in posting videos when I had no idea what I was posting, why I was posting it, what I was trying to achieve, what I was doing, or anything like that. So I stopped posting. Um, but I did spend some time really thinking about what to post. A few people had asked if there were going to be videos coming, some of the people that I know who knew I was posting the videos, but also some of the people that were just watching the channel. I had some I had some messages with people asking, and I knew I would come back to the channel. I just didn't know when or how or why, and I wanted to kind of certainly figure out those last two before I got to the when. So to some degree, I have figured out the last two a bit. Now, I was getting concerned that all I was doing was making a video and talking at the camera, which in all honesty is a huge part of YouTube anyway. But for me, it was feeling a bit redundant. Yeah, here I am just talking at the camera again. And the reason for that is I'm all right with that. I've said in a few videos before, this channel is, at this point at least, it's me finding my feet with it. I would say getting used to filming and stuff, but that's not true. I'm already used to the filming part and the editing part. It's finding my feet with it and finding what I feel comfortable doing and what I have the time to do and what I'm trying to do. And so for the time being, I'm all right if what I end up doing is just talking to the camera for the sake of making a video and get it out. Because over the course of a week, for me, a lot happens that I actually want to talk about on the channel and on camera to get out there. Maybe because I don't spend a lot of time talking to people. I talk to people at work. Anybody at work watching this will laugh if they think I don't talk a lot. But there's stuff that comes up that I would like to discuss in a way that's very different from when I'm talking to people at work about it. I get to just vocalize it here as almost a what do other people think if they ever come across the videos. No one's really watching these at the moment, a small handful, but I'm all right with musings. Plus, as I think I've mentioned before, when I talk to this camera, it helps me see my own thoughts a bit more clearly. When I hear myself say something out loud, I find myself questioning it, especially after the fact when I've posted a video and said, and I can look at it and think, you said this and the whole world can see it. Is that really what you think? Because that sounds a bit weird. So I'm kind of all right with doing this. I am going to get back to trying to post a bit more regularly again, like I was previously. Also, on top of that, because of timing, it means that making content that's a little bit more involved takes a lot more time than making these. And while I will make content that's a little bit more involved, right now time is tricky. My time seems to get filled quite a lot. Now, in part that's an excuse because I still seem to find time to play certain games on the Xbox. So I can't say entirely like, oh, I've just got no time. That's not entirely true. But after I've been working, or after I've worked on a project, or after I've worked on the caravan, to be quite honest, the last thing I want to do is sit down and make a video. I just want a break, and that's when I usually turn to the Xbox. But at the moment, I am trying to find a clearer way to organizing my time a little better than I have been, so that I can get to making videos that are somewhat more involved. Now, I've got a list. I don't even know where my iPad is, and my computer's not on. I've got a list somewhere of ideas, but when I look at those ideas, a lot of those ideas are me just talking. They're not really art-related ones. They are just me talking to the camera. Now, what I have done over the last couple of weeks is try to find ways that when I am just talking at the camera, I'm not just talking at the camera anymore. So rather than me just sitting here and putting the camera down and pressing go and here I am, when there's so much other stuff I would like to be doing, I'd rather do it that way. As in, I'll talk to the camera while I'm, say, drawing something, which brings me to what it is that I will try and do with the channel. Now, at this point, I don't want to split the channel between the various ideas that I have. What I would like to do is just start making content, see what sticks, and then follow that down a path. And then down the line, see what is working, what isn't working, what people are interested, what they're not interested in. If there's a split in the interests, maybe I'll split the channel. But for the time being, this is as much some kind of personal journal as it is anything else. And so part of that will just be this idea of me just talking about random topics or random things that come to mind, or random parts of my life, or any of those things that I'm trying to change, as well as covering some of the projects that I'm doing and some of the art that I do. So the way I'm going to do it is have branded segments, so that when someone sees the thumbnail, if people do start to engage with the channel, when someone sees the thumbnail, it should be quite clear, if you've seen a number of my videos, what that video is going to be like that you're about to watch. Now, of those ideas, of those segments, if you like, that I would like to do, some of them cover art, some of them cover my projects, and some of them cover my more personal life, or my personal outlooks, if you like. Now, I'm going to be going back to Thailand very soon. First time in a long time, to be quite honest. I'm very anxious about it. I don't know why entirely. I think I'm just anxious about the travel in general, but I am going to go back, and it will be nice to see certain people, and I will cover that probably quite extensively. I'm considering getting a GoPro so that I can film quite frequently and freely, and so I will cover that travel, and I will cover my life during that travel, which includes all the exercise that I've been doing, which I have still been doing, and I do plan to take a lot more seriously than I have been. Not that I haven't been taking it seriously, as in I haven't been going to the gym regularly, but a big part of this is meant to be strength training, and to be quite honest, I'm kind of terrified of going into the parts of the gym that have weights and machines and all of that. I'm very comfortable in the cardio section, which I can already feel the benefits of, but I really want to do the strength part of it as well. But I'm kind of scared of the strength part of the gym, if I'm being honest. Which actually raises a good point about a comment somebody left on a previous video. When I'd mentioned that I was struggling with this idea of me just coming on here and talking about my life, as that person pointed out, if I'm making a channel about making changes in life, which is part of what this channel is about, then the approach should be the same as if I was approaching art. I mean, they didn't say this extensively, but when I spent some time to dwell on their comment, they basically just said, what you should do is, if you're trying to change something in your life and you're trying to show that you can turn your life around, and this is how I'm trying to do it, you should highlight a problem that I faced that week, or a problem that I am currently facing, and then I should talk about my approach to solving that problem that I had, or about how I'm going to solve a problem that I face. That's a very good idea. And so that will kind of be how I approach this. For example, this is how I'm approaching solving the problem of YouTube, is I'm going to break it into segments for myself, and try and brand certainly the thumbnails and the titles in a way where it's very clear to anybody that sees one of my videos, like, oh, I know what that will be. That's something I might want to watch. So I'll have this segment about my life. I have no idea what I'll call that, because some of the more artistic ones I will be naming. So I'm going to have this segment about my life. That's going to cover me getting healthier again, and I'll talk about how I'm doing that. I should have covered how I was renovating. Renovating. That's a stretch. I should have covered me working on this caravan. Just looking around, if you can see this, I will do a tour of the caravan at some point. I should have covered that more, but I haven't. So, because I have managed to solve quite a few problems in this caravan, actually. My approach to problem solving is very long-winded, but 9 times out of 10, I end up with a result that I'm much happier with than when I don't seem to delay and delay and delay, because I suddenly reach a point where my brain says, you know, what would be a good fix for that? And then it just gives me the idea. Had I really rushed into, say, doing the bathroom, the way that I now have done it, or am currently doing it, is a much better end result than anything else I'd considered before. And I wouldn't have come up with that had I not had time. Because had I just gone ahead with my original plans, it would have been less functional in such a small space. Anyway, so yes, I will cover my personal life. So as far as covering other things goes, there are obviously my own personal projects that I want to cover, that I've mentioned before but not really gone into too deeply. But I will cover my progress on my personal projects as I narrow them down to a more manageable size, because I've just got so many ideas and things that I want to do. It's just not realistic to think that I can do all of them. But what I need to do is start spending some time with each of them and thinking, which ones do I personally want to do? Which ones am I capable of finishing on my own if I can't get any assistance or any funding down the line, and which ones am I most passionate about and why, and that will help me figure out which projects it is that I want to do. So there will be a segment on the personal projects, but the two ones I think for anybody that knows me right now and is here for the channel that are probably interested in are going to be much more on the creative artistic side. Now, I've mentioned many times that I don't want to make an art channel. The reason for that is there's two reasons for that. I'm just not comfortable teaching it. There's some old saying which is, as long as you know more than the person next to you, you can teach the person next to you something. That's true. That is true. But that doesn't mean that I'm comfortable then doing it. I'm not comfortable enough in my own work anyway. I suffer horribly from whatever you want to call it, imposter syndrome or whatever. And that makes it very hard for me to sit here and say, hey, you should draw things this way because look at me, I've drawn Batman. Who cares? So I don't feel comfortable doing that. And secondly, there's already a huge YouTube art community. And I don't see the point in putting my hat into that community if I'm not going to bring something new to the table. The problem with the YouTube art community is it kind of falls into two categories. Of course, there are greys in the middle, but let's just look at two categories. Let's just look at the artists themselves. There are either, and this is subjective, of course, very good artists or not good artists. Now, I think we judge good artists by, when I look at them, do I consider them to be better than me? Or do I consider them to be worse than me? That's a subjective thing, but that's how I weigh up the quality of art, generally speaking. Obviously, there are people in the same level. Like I said, there are greys in the middle of this, and within that community of both good and bad artists, there is good and bad advice. The odd thing about that is there are some very bad artists that give very good advice and some very good artists that give very good advice. But on the other side of it, there are also some very good artists that give what I consider to be very bad advice. And there are also some very bad artists giving some very bad advice. I don't want to be in either one of those camps. I don't want to be one of those. I don't want to be either one of those, right? Whether somebody considers me a good or a bad artist, yes, I would like to be in the camp that gives out the good advice, but I don't want to run the risk of being in the camp that gives out the bad advice, because I think that the art community can be very detrimental, especially in this day and age, to people who are trying to learn art. These speed painters and people like that, or people that make TikToks about art, and they're like, hey, here's a quick idea for you to try. And they put a minute of work into this thing. They put an apparent minute of work into this thing that ends up looking incredible. And then somebody else tries it who's trying to learn. It's very discouraging when you realize, oh, it's not that easy. It's like how do you draw an owl? Draw two circles. Oh, and now there's an owl. It's a similar thing. And those people, I personally believe, who are all fighting against, those people that make that kind of content and continue to fight against the AI art community, are the people that are driving younger and newer artists to AI art. Because it's not inspiring when someone shows you an incredible piece of art and says, hey, this is easy, and then you try and do it and it's not. And I have tried some of those challenges, and while I don't consider myself a good artist, I am a proficient one, and I have been a professional for a while, and I can't do some of those things, let alone somebody else. And that can be very discouraging to somebody. Anyway, the point being is, I don't want to put myself in a camp where I am giving bad advice or pushing people more towards AI art. Not that I would really push them away from it either anyway, actually. But as I've said many times when I talk about AI art, that's a much more complicated topic for a later, much larger discussion. Yeah. So I'm not getting into that one because I'm talking about what I'm trying to do with the channel. Okay, so if that's the case, then and I'm saying that I am going to do art on the channel, what is it that I'm going to do? I have got two ideas surrounding art, possibly three, but certainly two, definitely three. First, I want to do a segment. I've wanted to do this for ages, a segment called Draw This, Talk That. And in that segment, I will draw a thing while talking about the topic that relates to the thing that I'm drawing. For example, I went and saw Alien Romulus recently. For the record, starts great and gradually ends terrible. But about the midway point, it just turns into utter nonsense garbage. It's like they just rushed out the end of it. It's like they took all the time at the beginning, and at the end they were like, oh my God, we've only got a couple of weeks to finish this, and it's not written. And what are we going to do? If we just rip off Aliens badly, then it will be fine. and then we'll just tag on some Alien Resurrection on the end of it. Resurrection? Whatever the full form is called. And certainly if we tag that on the end of it, it'll be good. No one will notice. Anyway, the point being is it wasn't very good. But I'll talk about that in this thing that I'm going to do. So draw this, talk that. So I would say, for instance, draw a facehugger. By far, the best moments of Alien Romulus involved the facehuggers whilst discussing Alien Romulus, for example. Or I would draw a character from Star Wars whilst discussing Star Wars, or draw characters from my own projects while discussing my projects. You get the point. I would draw a thing and talk about something related to that thing, which would cover the art, because in that I would talk about what I'm doing, how I'm doing it, why I'm doing it that way, and so on and so forth, whilst also discussing the other topic. Another thing that I want to do is, one of my keener interests in life is paranormal, conspiracies, all that kind of stuff. UFOs, Bigfoot, ghosts, all of that. I am personally a skeptic, even though I have had numerous what anybody would class as paranormal experiences. But the point about this other segment that I want to do is a segment called A Brush with the Paranormal. And in that, a bit like the draw this, talk that, I would discuss a paranormal topic, either a personal experience or something that interests me, whilst painting, drawing and colouring, whilst making a colour image of that topic. Hence the brush with the paranormal. The reason for this is because I want to learn to paint. I don't want to learn to paint. I want to learn to colour better. If that means painting, great. But it's not like I need to be able to paint. It's like I need to be able to make a colour image better than I can make them right now, because I feel that it is a great weakness on my part. I'm good enough that I can do a cover. I've done a few occasionally, and I'm certainly good enough that I can get concept art down with a bit of substance to it, but I'm still not anywhere near as good as I want to be. And so in that segment, I will, as I say, discuss a paranormal topic, and then I will be doing an image of that paranormal topic, of the topic. So if I was discussing Bigfoot, I would draw a picture of Bigfoot, so on and so forth. So very similar to the draw this, talk that. And lastly, as far as the art stuff goes, the way I would like to approach art is I was looking at the main types of content that gets made for YouTube, and one of the big types of content, one of the very popular types of content for YouTube, is both commentary and reactionary videos, where people see another video and then give their reaction to it or make a comment on it. I'm going to start doing that for other art channels. If I'm not willing to say to somebody, this is how you should draw, I am willing to say to somebody, you should watch this video, because they have some very good points and they have a very good approach to a certain problem they're trying to solve. But rather than just copy and pasting their video, I don't want to do that. And I don't want to just like play a bit of the video, pause it, talk over it, play a bit. I don't want to do that either. What I would do is I would show highlights. I would point people towards the video. You should go and watch this video. It's very good. It's going to be very helpful. I would play highlights from the video, but those highlights would relate to both my opinion on that video and specifically, especially if I approach it differently. Now, I'm never going to point someone towards videos that are bad. I just won't talk about the videos that I think are bad. I'm not getting into that kind of thing on YouTube. So what I would do is, I saw a very good video recently about how to thumbnail comics. And while I watched it and thought, that's a really good approach, actually, that's a really nice way of doing thumbnails, that's just not the way I do it. Because there are many, many ways to approach art. Like, you don't have to approach it all in the same way. There are many ways to approach comics. There are many ways to approach so many things in art. There are so many ways to get to an end result. And the amount of times I see a video and think, oh, that was actually really good. Maybe I can incorporate that into what I do, because that's not the way I do it. So what I would do in those videos is point you towards the video, but then say, but this is the way I do it. And so then show you my method as well as their method. So like a comparison side by side. But as I say, it would never be to say that my way is better than their way. It would just be to say, this way is a very good way of approaching it, but this is the way I do it instead. So on an art level, that's the three kinds of content that I'm going to cover. And then, as I say, I will cover my own projects. There's the Bazooka Jules comic. There's an RPG set in the same universe. There's a board game. I mean, the majority of my stuff is set in the one universe. It's set in the Welcome to Caliber Bay universe. There's a couple of fringe projects that aren't. There's another couple of comics that aren't set in that universe, and some other board game ideas. But my main stuff is a comic set in the Welcome to Caliber Bay universe, which is the Bazooka Jules comic. There's an RPG set in that universe. There is a dungeon crawling type game set in that universe, a board game, and a miniatures game, all of which are set in that universe, all of which I'm going to be working on. I'm going to be fleshing out to a point where I can start to narrow down. There's a channel I really like called Blue Biotics or Blue Botics. And on that, he is creating a dungeon crawler called Low. Sadly, it seems he's either archived or removed all of his early videos. And his early videos were the ones that I found most inspiring, which is a shame. But originally in that, he had this handful of projects. And over the time of working on them all and updating the progress of them on YouTube, he whittled himself down to the dungeon crawler that he's working on, Low. That's the one. And then from there, he's got these, and it's also helped him define what he will do when Low is finished. This is what I'm going to do next. And so I'm going to take a similar approach. And so, yes, that's what you can expect from the channel going forward. I will start posting regularly, and that might mean that I do just sit here and talk to the camera, because if it gets to Sunday and I haven't organized my time better, then one, I will have something to say about the week, or I will have just a topic to discuss. And I would like to just start making videos again. Now, I also might add time lapses to the side. This one won't have. I haven't left myself enough time today to be able to film this, edit it, and then add a time lapse at the side as well. That is not quite as simple as it sounds. It's not difficult. It's certainly not simple with my computer. I could do it on the iPad, but it's a lot harder to do that kind of an edit on the iPad. And on the computer, I run the risk of it just shutting down constantly. There's something, I don't know if there's something wrong with it. I don't know if it's the power in the caravan, but there's a problem where I'll be halfway through doing something and it will just restart itself. Not say it's restarting, it will just power off and then just power straight back up again, which means I just lose all the work that I've done. But in the coming months, there's meant to be announcements for the new M4 Max, either a Mac Mini or something like that, and I will be updating my equipment, at which point I will easily be able to, while editing these, just add a time lapse next to it like the previous ones I've done. But for the time being, I just want to get back to making videos. So that's what you can expect. When I do the first version of each of these topics, of each of these segments, I will talk about it, and I will talk about my approach to those segments, how I plan to brand them, how I plan to theme them, and how I plan to let people know. But for the time being, that is what you can expect. I do have a huge list of videos to make that I want to make, and so I will continue to try and make those. I would like to get to a stage where I can make 2 videos a week, really. If I want to make a video like this, I think I might have mentioned it on a previous video, but if I want to make a video like this, I would also like to supplement that with one of the other types of videos that I just mentioned, whether that be something about my projects, draw this, talk that, all of those things. Anyway, I'm going to leave this one here. I've been talking for a while. What time is it? 20, oh dang, is that 24 minutes? Yeah, I think that is 24 minutes. No, that's 25 minutes. I've been talking for 25 minutes. It's because I haven't talked to the camera for a while. Anyway, I'm going to leave this one here. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for watching. My name's Neil. I have no idea what I'm doing, but I'm getting a better idea, right? I mean, that's clear. All right, until the next one. Cheers for watching. Bye. Bye.